indignation forever. And your eyes shall see, and ye shall say, the Lord will be magnified from the border of Israel. So God comes right out of the gate and says, I love you. I love you so much. And Israel says, oh yeah? How? Prove it. And God could have answered, like the children's book, let me number the ways. Not only did I create Adam, and after his fall, I promised a seed to restore him and his people to right relationship with me. I chose Abraham, even though he was completely undeserving. I rescued you from Egypt. I gave you my law. I went before you and conquered the promised land. I crowned you kings. After you fell and went into Babylon and Egypt, I returned you from exile. Besides all those things, I haven't really done much for you. It's kind of like children or teenagers who could be unaware or question their parents' love. Oh, you love me, Mom and Dad? And Mom and Dad could say, yeah, I've changed hundreds of your diapers, and I've fed you thousands of meals, and I've taught you how to read, and I've put clothes on your back, and besides that, I haven't really done much for you. But instead of going to all those great lengths, God focuses in on Jacob and Esau. Did you notice this in verse 2 and verse 3? God says, Jacob, you're from Jacob, you're from Israel, you're my children, and so I have blessed you. Now, people have tried to debate about what does it mean that Esau have I hated. It could mean Jacob, I've hated him by comparison with how much I've loved, or Esau, I've hated in comparison with how much I've loved Jacob. It could be referring to the people groups, the Edomites and the Israelites that it came from. It could be subverting the cultural expectations of Esau being the firstborn and yet Jacob because of God's calling and election. So it's not about being the firstborn. God could have just as well said, Isaac have I loved, and Ishmael have I hated. And the whole point, though, and this is what Paul brings out when he quotes this section in Romans chapter 9, is that it's not about genetics, it's not about birth order, it's about the calling and election of God. And because, we know this because later in the book, God is going to say that all nations have opportunity to come to me in Christ and in the Messiah. So all Gentiles, Idumeans and Edomites included, could be grafted into Christ. And children, you're here with us in our service this morning. It's very important that you hear that you are not saved because of who your parents are. You're not saved because you come to church a certain number of Sundays per year. You're not saved because you come from a certain ethnicity or family tree. Salvation comes in Christ and in Christ alone and by being connected to Jesus. And so when you're connected to Jesus and baptized into Him, then you have confidence that you are saved. And that's where Malachi goes next, is that despite our sin and rebellion, God is relentlessly faithful in His love to His people. So let's begin reading in verse 6. Now Malachi says that God's people have dishonored His name. A son honoreth his father, and a servant his master. If then I be a father, where is mine honor? And if I be a master, where is my fear? Saith the Lord of hosts unto you, O priests that despise my name. And ye say, here's the argumentative spirit again, wherein have we despised thy name? God answers, ye offer polluted bread upon my altar, and ye say, wherein have we polluted thee? In that ye say, the table of the Lord is contemptible. And ye offer the blind for sacrifice. Is it not evil? And if ye offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? Offer it now unto thy governor. Will he be pleased with thee, or accept thy person, saith the Lord of hosts? And now I pray you, beseech God that he will be gracious unto us. This hath been by your means. Will he regard your person, saith the Lord of hosts? Who is there even among you that would shut the doors for naught? Neither do ye kindle fire on mine altar for naught. I have no pleasure in you, saith the Lord of hosts, neither will I accept an offering at your hand. For from the rising of the sun, even unto the going down of the same, my name shall be great among the Gentiles. And in every place incense shall be offered unto my name, and a pure offering. For my name shall be great among the heathen, saith the Lord of hosts. But ye have profaned it, in that ye say, the table of the Lord is polluted, and the fruit thereof, even his meat, is contemptible. Ye also said, Behold, what a weariness is it! And ye snuffed at it, saith the Lord of hosts, and ye brought that which was torn, and the lame, and the sick. Thus ye brought an offering. Should I accept this of your hand, saith the Lord? But cursed be the deceiver which hath in his flock a male, and voweth and sacrificeth unto the Lord a corrupt thing. For I am a great king, saith the Lord of hosts, and my name is dreadful among the heathen. And now, O ye priests, this commandment is for you. Notice the focus on the leadership. If ye will not hear, and ye will not lay it to heart, to give glory unto my name, saith the Lord of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because ye do not lay it to heart. Behold, I will corrupt your seed, and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it. And ye shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. My covenant was with him, that is Levi, of life and peace. And I gave them to him for the fear with which he feared me, and was afraid before my name. The law of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts. But ye are departed out of the way. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law. Ye have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. Have we not all one Father? Have not one God created us? Why do we deal treacherously, every man against his brother? By profaning the covenant of our fathers. So what God is condemning here in this section of Malachi through his prophet is that God's people had gotten into a habit of not bringing God their best and their first, but just giving him the leftovers. Oh, you want to sacrifice God? Okay, here's a sick animal. Here's a blemished lamb. No big deal, right? And in verse 13, not only were their sacrifices corrupted, but did you notice their attitude? Oh, this is a weariness. We got to, walk up to the temple and bring these animals and sing God's praises and strain our voices. Oh, this worship thing, this is a weariness. And then you notice again the leadership. So God highlights not just the priests, but also Levi, the one whom the Aaronic priests descend from, and that tribe. And so what God is highlighting here is that even though my people, and even the leaders of my people, have been faithless to my covenant, because I am faithful and the same yesterday and today and forever, I am faithful to my people. I am faithful to my covenant promises, even when my people aren't. And I am orchestrating all things together for my glory, so that, verse 11, from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, the whole earth, my name shall be great among the Gentiles. My glory will cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. And then in the next section, starting in chapter 2 and verse 11, Judah hath dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah hath profaned the holiness of the Lord, which he loved, and hath married the daughter of a strange God. The Lord will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offereth an offering unto the Lord of hosts. And this have ye done again, covering the altar of the Lord with tears, with weeping, and with crying out, insomuch that he regardeth not the offering any more, or receiveth it with good will at your hand. Yet ye say, Wherefore? Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. Yet is she thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. And did not he make one? Yet had he the residue of the Spirit. And wherefore one? That he might seek a godly seed. Therefore take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. For the Lord, the God of Israel, saith that he hateth putting away. For one covereth violence with his garment, saith the Lord of hosts. Therefore, take heed to your spirit, that ye deal not treacherously. So God hones in this section on how divorce was an evidence of their godless homes and intermarrying of pagans. Of course, we know, and Paul expands in Ephesians chapter 5, that marriage is designed, it is meant to be a reflection of the grace and faithfulness of God in Christ, as Christ loves the church. And so God is saying, okay, in your worship, in your families, you're neglecting. You're being faithless. And by the way, just a quick counseling side note here. Marriage problems often and typically reflect deeper God problems. And so if there is constant friction with a spouse, or arguing, or giving or receiving of the silent treatment, or hiding things and mismanaging funds on purpose, those things typically reflect a deeper issue, a root problem. And so as God reveals marriage strife and struggles, don't ignore those. Don't allow that root of bitterness to go deep. Resolve them as quickly as possible. And if you need help, see a trusted counselor, one of the pastors, one of your fellow church members. Don't let that carry on. Next, in chapter 2, starting in verse 17, one verse before chapter 3, Malachi shows how the people presumed on God's justice. Earlier, the people said, worshiping God is wearisome. Now, he says, ye have wearied the Lord with your words. And again, here's this argumentative spirit. Yet ye say, wherein have we wearied him? When ye say, every one that doeth evil is good in the sight of the Lord, and he delighteth in them. Or, where is the God of judgment? We'll come back to those two questions in just a moment. But here's the solution that God gives in chapter 3. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord whom ye seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire and like fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, and as in former years. And I will come near to you in judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right. And fear not me, saith the Lord of hosts, for I am the Lord. I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. So going back to those two initial questions, they're basically saying, on the one hand, hey, you know what? It's okay if I sin. God doesn't really see it as a big deal. No worries. And then on the exact opposite side of the coin, they say, and how come God isn't punishing the evil that people do to me, or that people do to us? And so they're speaking out of both sides of their mouths. And God says, I will deal with evil. I will deal with sin. And here's how. In chapter 3, verses 1 through 3, my messengers, fulfilled in John the Baptist and the person and work of Jesus, he says, there might be 400 years of prophetic silence coming, but just wait until they do. And they will usher in my forgiveness and my grace and my glory. John being the lowercase m messenger, Jesus being the capital M messenger, our prophet, priest, and king. And that's how we'll conclude. So we'll get to that in a few moments. But next, Malachi is not done yet. He begins again in chapter 3 and verse 7. How God's people are robbing God's storehouse. Even from the days of your fathers ye are gone away from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith the Lord of hosts. But ye said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open to you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith the Lord of hosts. And all nations shall call you blessed, for ye shall be a delightsome land, saith the Lord of hosts. So the people had started to neglect bringing what the law said was necessary for the upkeep of the temple, tithes, 10%. And so no tithes, they had a disrepaired temple. The Levites weren't being paid properly. Of course, we know that in the new covenant, we are not required to give a tithe. There's not some legalist, well, I hit the 10% mark, so I'm good. Instead, God calls us to be cheerful and sacrificial givers, because that's what God has done for us in Christ. He loved us and gave us his Son cheerfully and sacrificially. So he calls us to reflect that as his people. We willingly give not to a temple, but to the church of the living God that he is building, and not even the gates of hell can stand against it. So God gives us the privilege of contributing towards the spread of the gospel and advancement of his kingdom truths. And it's also an opportunity to grow in our trust in him and in his provision. Because the fact of the matter is, whether you calculate it or not, the first 10% of everything that you earn goes somewhere. You put it either in long-term investing, a 401k, you put it in vacations, you put it in upkeep of a house, you put it in meals, you put it somewhere. And God says, put it up in heaven. Lay it up. You can't bring it with you, but you can pass it on. So give to the church and give to Christian organizations so that the gospel might be spread to the uttermost parts of the earth. And as you give and put money in offering plates and write checks to charitable organizations that we are confident that faithfully proclaim the good news of the gospel, you can lay up treasures in heaven. What a privilege that God allows us to participate with him in kingdom giving. And then final section, they had robbed God's storehouse and they also despised God's service. Last paragraph of chapter 3, starting in verse 13. Your words have been stout against me, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, more arguing, what have we spoken so much against thee? Ye have said, it's vain to serve God. And what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance, and that we have walked mournfully before the Lord of hosts? And now we call the proud happy. Yea, that work wickedness are set up. Yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. Then they that feared the Lord spake often one to another. And the Lord hearkened and heard it. And a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared the Lord and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall ye return, and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth is him not. And so Malachi ends with their apathy had come full circle. The people's attitude was, this is pointless.